So the dish I'm going to be showing you right now is a crispy skin salmon with marinated fennel and a tomato vinaigrette with a little touch of tarragon. It is a really beautiful, refreshing dish that brings out the absolute best from this salmon. There's two sides to this fillet that we're going to be using. We're going to do two separate preparations. One of it, we're going to take this prime loin, going to carve it off real beautifully, and we're going to prepare the skin so when we put it in the pan it's going to crisp up beautifully, and when you bite into it you're going to have that crack that's going to make this the most delicious piece of salmon you have ever tasted in your life. The belly part, however, we're going to use to make it tataki. That is a different type of preparations where you really quickly sear the outside to bring a tiny bit of cooking and a bit of flavor to the dish, and then with a light vinaigrette we're going to make that really delicious as a starter. But for now, we're going to really focus on the main bit, on the prime loin as they call it. And once we carve it off, we remove the scales and fry that in the pan. That skin is going to crisp up real nice. But we have to make sure that we take away all the moisture. We have to make sure that we take away all the scales, because otherwise that skin won't crisp up nice enough. We're not going to have that sensation that when you bite into it, you're going to have that and then a beautiful fatty salmon hitting the palate. So where we're going to start is we're going to find the middle of the fillet. And when you see here on the side, there's always a little bit of brown meat that we're going to want to trim off. So we're going to find the middle and take our knife and cut gently down. Not through the skin, but we want to go all the way down. Then we want to carve a little bit more to the inside. We're going to follow the beautiful pink flesh. We do exactly the same on the other side. We follow a little bit to the inside. Open it up and cut through. This way, we're going to have a really perfect skin side that once we have prepared this off, it's going to crisp up real nicely. The belly part, again, we're going to trim a tiny bit of the middle. There occasionally is some bones, there's a bit of sinew that doesn't look pretty and doesn't eat so nicely. And we want to cut off all the brown bits. They tend to have a slight bitter taste. I don't mind it too much, generally, but it is better without. Now for the belly, we're going to want to remove the skin. There's not going to be enough cooking on there to get it crispy, and if you can't have it crispy, for me the skin side should go. So we're going to use the knife, make a small incision, and then where you can, you have to level your knife with the cutting board and cut off the skin beautifully. Going to trim that off a tiny bit more. We need to find some grip. We need to make sure that that salmon belly doesn't move too much in order to be able to cut off. We have our beautifully prepared salmon belly. We're going to put it in the fridge. We're going to do the dish for that later, and then we're going to focus now on the main loin. So we have the beautiful skin side of the salmon. There's going to be scales there that we want to remove, and the easiest way to do that is with a fork. And I'm going to do it in the sink because it tends to get a little bit messy. All the scales are going to be jumping all over, and we don't want to make a mess where we are cooking. So we're going to move to the sink, and we're going to gently strike with the fork against the grain of the scales. Now they're going to be jumping off a little bit, but we really want to make sure that we remove every single bit. Slightly tedious job, but the results will be incredible. And when you don't get all the scales off, they will harden up, they will toughen. It won't be nice crisp, it will be kind of difficult to chew. So it will be worth to just take your time and gently remove all the scales, especially on the sides where it's easy to forget. Don't want to use any water, because what we're trying to do is remove as much moisture from the skin as possible. So when we're cooking it, the skin crisps up. The wetter it is, the more hard it will become to actually get the skin crispy, and at some point we would overcook the fish. which is obviously something that we don't want. There we go. Now I'll just use a knife to check and make sure all the scales are gone. So we want to do long strokes. First we go one direction, trying to catch, and we go the other direction against the grain. You can really see it open up. That's where you're going to find those last ones that we don't want in. Now there's a little bit of black coming off the skin. It's the color of the skin, but it's also moisture. So I really want to scrape it out and make the skin as dry as possible. You can really see how there is still moisture coming off the skin. So we keep gentle strokes. We don't force too much. We don't want to damage the flesh. We just want to make it as clean as possible. We have a beautifully prepared skin that once it hits the pan, it's going to be perfectly crisp and really delicious. Now when doing fish, it's really important to keep your area clean. There's scales laying around, there's a little bit of fish there. We want to make sure that we wash up in between. Keep a really nice clean cutting board for the next bits. Because all the little scales that are left here, once we're going to start cutting the meat, they're going to end up on the flesh. And we don't want that. Those scales are not going to be nice to eat, so it's better to stay nice and tidy. So we tied it up real nicely. And we're going to portion our salmon. It's a beautiful big loin. Gonna cut it in two, make two real perfect portions. It's gonna fill the plate and fill the palate. We're gonna leave these here. We're gonna pan sear them in a little bit of oil, but first we need to make the garnish. So we're going to do the marinated fennel and we're gonna do a tomato vinaigrette. Both of them really simple. They do not require any or much cooking, although we will heat up the fennel, which gives it a tiny bit of a cook. We don't want it to be too raw, but we really like to keep the bite. This is what's gonna bring more texture to this dish, and when you eat it with a refreshing vinaigrette, we're gonna have richness with tarragon cutting through, and all in all, really complete and beautiful summery dish that I would say once the sun starts shining, this is one that you wanna dish out. So first, we're going to do the tomato vinaigrette. This is a no-cook sauce, which I love because it's really easy, but it does take a little bit of time to infuse, to make sure that all these flavors that we're putting in are coming through at the right time. So we're going to start with our tomato juice. We're going to add a dash of vinegar, not much. The tomato already has acidity, so we don't need much, but we do want to bring a slightly more refreshing tone. That's why we call it the vinaigrette. A little bit of olive oil. We want that filming mouthfeel when we eat it. We want to have the richness of the tomato, the vinegar, but also something that rounds it off. And that for me is where we put the olive oil in. But this sauce would not be complete for me without a nice touch, something different, something that you're gonna think about. And when it's on the plate, you're gonna think, that really makes it delicious. We understand tomato, we understand olive oil, we understand the flavors of a salmon. But for me, tarragon is a gorgeous herb. It is full of flavor and it really brings something unique to a dish. And in this case, we're going to very easily take some of the small leaves, the young ones. We're going to chop them thinly and put them into the tomato vinaigrette. Now they're going to need about 10-15 minutes to really infuse the sauce. So that's why we start with preparing this. It doesn't need much preparation, this sauce, but we do need to get the balance between the acidity, the olive oil and the spiciness of the tarragon, or that herby fragrance that I personally really love. So for cutting the tarragon, I took the leaves. And to make your life easy, we kind of just want to organize them into a little bunch, which will make it very easy to cut. And then with our chef's knife, we make gentle strokes. And then we go very slowly. Make sure that you keep your fingers in, otherwise it's going to become a mess. We just want to make a couple of gentle strokes, as fine as you can. Doesn't really matter if the pieces are a little bit bigger than this. Going to add that to the vinaigrette. Give it a good stir, a little pinch of salt. That's really gonna bring it all out. It's gonna bring the tomato flavor out, but also the tarragon is also gonna enhance the richness of the tomato juice. Also gonna give that perfect balance within the sauce. I find that in a vinaigrette sauce, the flavors sometimes are a little bit hidden. If you don't put the right amount of salt, you don't need much, but it does need a pinch to make sure you tie all those flavors together. The olive oil, the vinegar, and most importantly here, the tarragon. Gonna give it a nice little stir. And because the tomato juice is thick, you right away have a consistency that I really like. The key in a good sauce is often texture, and it's often what it is lacking. A jus is really delicious when it's thick and syrupy and it's filming in the mouth. And the same with the vinaigrette. Very often, if the emulsion is not done correctly, it is very thin on the palate and you're gonna be tasting the flavors separately. That's often not intended. And in this case, this beautiful, thick vinaigrette with the tarragon running through. And it's the consistency that I really like. It's gonna really hang around the salmon. It's gonna be absolutely delicious when it comes together with the fennel, with this refreshing, rich vinaigrette and a crispy skinned salmon with a lot of fatness in there. Absolutely stunning. So then we move on, we go to the fennel. Fennel, delicious vegetable, also really refreshing, has this aniseed taste that I personally really like. There's a couple of bits here. On the bottom, we have to take care of the brown bits. And on the top, we don't really need the green parts. You can eat them, they're great in stocks, they're great in salads. We can't use them at the moment because we really want to use the white. We want to have that contrast on the plate of that beautiful white fennel and the pink salmon. But what we do really want to use is the little fennel fronds, the green bits. I find them beautifully looking. They're really refined and delicate in flavor. We trim up the fennel, take care a little bit of the stems on the top. We don't need the greens, we want the white bits only. And then we're gonna cut it on the vegetable slicer. Now it might be a tiny bit too big to fit if you have one like mine. So I'm gonna take away the outer leaf, and then on the vegetable slicer, we're gonna make beautiful thin slices. They're gonna release the beautiful anise flavor. Gonna go a little bit thicker. All depends on what kind of slicer you have. And like that, it goes really easy. You will have all the different parts of the fennel come through. That's gonna look really beautiful on the plate, and once marinated, delicious to eat. Pretty much gonna need all of the fennel, depends a bit on the size. This was a nice big size. And that's it. Beautiful thin slices of absolutely delicious vegetable. Gonna use our fennel fronds. Chop them gently with your knife. Introduce them to the bowl. And then the marinade for this is really simple and really straightforward. We're gonna use a little bit of white wine vinegar. We're gonna use a nice bit of extra virgin olive oil. We're gonna use a pinch of salt. And this together really enhances the flavor of the vegetables. And that is what I'm teaching almost all the time. We don't have to add a plethora of different ingredients and different flavors and spices. My dishes are very simple. They're really down to the core of the ingredients that we use. We have this perfect, beautiful salmon. We have this really nice and refreshing fennel, and we don't want to do too much to it. We want to enhance the flavors of the products that we use and bring them together so there's harmony on the plate. There's harmony in the dish, the way it's created, the way we think about the flavors. But when you're eating this, we're eating some real beautiful products. Something that is just picked from the ground, brought to the kitchen. We want to eat it as fresh as we can. Or the salmon is caught, brought to the kitchen as quick as we could. We cook it on the same day. That is what it's all about in the cooking, especially with seafood. Freshness is incredibly important. So a lot of emphasis on having fresh ingredients and doing little but beautiful preparations with them. So we added our vinegar, olive oil, salt. We're gonna mix it around. Make sure we get a nice even coating. Making sure that we get the balance between the vinegar and the olive oil right. This vegetable is so full of flavor and so full of freshness that I really feel that the less you do to it, the better it is. So that little touch of vinegar comes through. It's not overpowering, it's not taking over the flavor of the fennel, but it enhances the freshness. And the same with the olive oil. There's only a drop of it. We do want to make sure it's coated. There's a few little bits that did not get enough olive oil and vinegar. And even for the salt, we don't need to add too much. It's a beautiful, fresh, simple to make side that we're gonna heat up real gently, serve with the salmon, finish with the sauce, and then our dish is already done. So when we serve, we're going to heat up the fennel. So we're gonna put it already in a small pan. It's gonna make our life easy once we're going to serve. And then it's time for the crispy skin salmon. Now some chefs swear by carving in the skin. I swear by having it dry and making sure that you have removed the scales. We want to use a nice frying oil. I tend to use rapeseed oil. It has a really great high burning point, but it's cold pressed and great for a cooking preparation like this. So we're going to start by heating up the pan. A little bit of rapeseed oil. We're gonna skin fry that crispy salmon until it's absolutely perfect. We'll turn it over for the last few minutes and then cook it till the middle still is a little bit pink. Serve it right away before it gets cold, and then you will have the absolute best experience. Now, as you know, with cooking, everything is about timing. And when it comes to fish cookery, I think nothing is more true. There is, by all means, a time where we have to rest, where we have to take time before we eat something on the plate, especially when we're cooking meats and steaks. With fish, we want to make sure that we cook it, it's finished, and we serve it right away. It will cool down, but then when you carve into it, it's going to flake apart. You're going to have all the moisture in there, because by the time that's cooled down, you have to reheat it. It's no big deal, but you will have lost a little bit of that touch. That real perfection point for me is when it comes from the pan, goes on the plate, you add your sauce, and it's right away time to eat. So we'll get a pan nice and hot. You can use a non-stick if you're at home and feel a little bit more confident about that. Doesn't really matter, these are stainless steel on the inside. You need a little bit more frying oil to make sure that it doesn't stick. You're going to season the salmon all the way around, making sure we coat the sides, the skin, the bottom. Now here we're gonna have to really make sure that the pan gets hot. If it's really way too cold, the skin is going to stick and we're gonna lose that beautiful crispy skin to the pan. It's gonna have a little bit of oil in there, and we're just gonna wait till the perfect moment. Keeping the fish nicely oiled up. And really important, not wet. If your skin is wet or the meat is wet, it's going to stick and there's nothing that you can really do about it. Now, a good way to test if your pan is hot is to drop a tiny drop of water. When you see that it is going like that, then we know that we are at the right point and we can add our salmon. I'm gonna move that a tiny bit. And we want to press it down. The skin is going to tense up and it's going to form a little bubble in the middle. And if we don't press it down a tiny bit, it's going to stick and it's not going to be crispy in the middle. The outside are going to burn, but the inside is going to remain soft. So I want to push very gently down. If you find any scales, just take them away. Very gently, keeping it on the skin side. So we're gonna do most of the cooking on the skin side. We really want to get the skin crispy and serve it on. And once we turn it over, it's only gonna need a minute or two until it is perfectly cooked. Gonna keep the oil swirling around. making sure that there's good contact with all the skin parts on the side, in the middle. That is gorgeous like that. And then we check and make sure that we're not burning it. We want to have good heat under here, but not too much, because we want to make sure that the skin doesn't burn before it turns crispy. So the heat management is really quite important. I'm here at medium heat, let's say, but I'm happy to turn it down. Now we have the heat in, the pan is sizzling. We're going to take our time and really take care of that skin side. You can lift it up a tiny bit, make sure that the oil reaches all the parts of the skin, because that is where it gets nice and crispy. Then we slowly cook 3-4 minutes at least on the skin side, and once we turn it over, it probably only needs 1 or 2. In the meantime, we're going to heat up the fennel, we're going to lukewarm up the tomato vinaigrette, and then it's going to be time for plating. So we can turn on the heat on the fennel, gently heat it up, and also our vinaigrette sauce. A minimal heat, doesn't need to be boiling, just needs to warm through. I'll use a little palette knife here to check and see where that skin is at. And that's doing really well, but we still need a bit. If you can see, the salmon is still relatively uncooked. There's still a bit of ground to cover, so we leave it on here. We're going to stay patient because we want that skin to be crispy. If we turn it over too quickly, we're going to lose that beautiful crisp. It's not going to be cooked enough. And with fish cookery, it's often the less you touch it, the better it is. We don't want to be turning it over and turning it back again. There's too much chance that the flesh will break apart and that we're going to damage the fish. Such a delicate ingredient. And as you can see here, it's warm, but we're not cooking it through. Turn off the heat. It's going to stay nice and warm for the time being. And by the time the salmon is done, everything is going to be nice and warm. And when we plate up, we're going to have this beautiful meal. Nice warm salmon, beautiful refreshing fennel salad. And a fragrant vinaigrette with a tarragon. It's going to bring something unique, something a little bit different. Pair it with a nice white wine on a bit of a sunny day, whether it's spring, summer, or even autumn. I'd be happy to eat this dish every week. Now when you look at the salmon here, we can see that the cooking is starting to reach pretty much halfway. That is also when we know that the skin is going to be pretty nice and crisp, and that it's almost time to turn it over. So we want to be really, really gentle. And turn it over nicely, and there you can see this skin is really nice and hard. It's going to be crisp and delicious. Exactly where we want to be. And we want to use the oils from the pan, bath the fish a little bit, making sure that it doesn't dry out. And then we'll turn the heat off, because there's enough residual heat in the pan to cook this fish through. And we want to bring up the temperature gently. If we're too hot and too much heat, then it's going to dry out and it's going to shrink together. We're going to lose all that beautiful moisture from the inside. So once we turn it over, we're going to leave it in the pan. That heat is going to transfer to the middle very nice and gently. And we have the time to plate up our fennel, to plate up our sauce, and we're going to be eating in no time. Now when it comes to plating, many people always ask me, can you show me plating techniques? Can you show me how to make something look beautiful? And I've thought about this a lot. Obviously I plate beautiful plates of food and there's a simplicity to it, and I feel that that is often where the catch is. We don't want to do too many things, because when you do too many things on the plate it tends to look messy. So with these dishes we only have a few ingredients. I like to use a clean white plate with enough space. Like a big plate always looks really beautiful, especially on a somewhat minimalistic dish like this. We're going to use a cutter. You can get them from online. I think you can order them in anywhere. Many cook shops they have them, but they do make it really easy to make something look neat and tidy. So in this case we're going to place it right in the middle. We're going to fill it up with our marinated fennel. Then we're going to put the salmon on top. And we'll finish with the sauce around. Now I'm a man that loves his sauces and I like to serve a lot of sauce, but when it comes to plating that is not always ideal. So what I like to do is, for visual aspect, we put a very beautiful swirl of sauce all the way around the fish, and we serve the rest of the sauce on the side, so that you can take as much as you like and you can spoon it up and you can drown it in there if you may. I would if I could, but for plating specifically, it's always quite nice to make it a little bit minimalistic and just swirl it around. You will see with this dish how beautiful it looks and how simple it is to make a really good looking plate of food. So our fennel is nice and warm. It's beautiful and white. And we're going to place that in the middle of the plate. Then we'll take the cutter off. Take our crispy skinned salmon. You can see on the sides it's cooked all the way through. It's going to be a tiny bit pink on the inside. And that is exactly what we want. We don't want to overcook the salmon either. With fish it's very easy to overcook and you're going to lose the real beauty of the product. We want to make sure that we cook it gently to the inside. Not too hard, not too quick. And then serve right away, so you really have, when you bite into it, that the juices are still flowing out. It's going to mix with the sauce, and all together it's going to be absolutely stunning. So we see, we're going to mix our vinaigrette sauce, making sure that the oil is nicely emulsified almost, and we're going to spoon this around. Now this doesn't matter too much. It's for the visual aspect that we do this, and we serve the rest of the sauce on the side, because we're going to want to spoon it all on that plate, and we really want to mix the fish with the fennel and lots of sauce, because that together will make the eating experience. But for now, that is our crispy skinned salmon with marinated fennel and a tomato vinaigrette with tarragon.